Chris Tucker didn't want to be the poster child for smoking weed. He don't smoke weed like that.
Right.
He in the church. Chris Tucker that we got now is Epstein Island Chris Tucker.
Oh,
not Smokey.
Oh.
Jeffrey Epstein, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. You know, we flew Bill Clinton and a lot of different, well, that was a humanitarian trip to Africa.
Katt Williams is once again throwing shade at Chris Tucker after Chris's name popped up in some explosive new files tied to that island scandal.
Jeffrey Epstein, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. You know, we flew Bill Clinton and a lot of different, well, that was a humanitarian trip to Africa.
Yeah.
And I met him on that trip because it was his plane. I didn't know who plane we was getting on, but it was a whole bunch of dignitary people. We was with a delegation. And yeah, I met him, and you know, you don't know people, what they do in their private lives. So yeah.
Chris has been out here preaching about his faith and saying religion is the reason he walked away from Hollywood, even bragging that he once turned down a $10 million role in Friday because of the swearing and the wild storyline. But Katt is stirring the pot and suggesting there's way more to the story. Like Chris might be using religion as a cover for something way darker. Why else would someone at the top of their game walk away from opportunities that big? Unless there's a secret no one wants to say out loud.
The Chris Tucker that we got now is Epstein Island Chris Tucker.
Oh, Lord.
Not Smokey.
Oh, Lord.
Whew. If I didn't know no better, I'd tell you he's the greatest. I don't care what you say.
You might remember when Katt Williams randomly called Chris out last year during a club chat session, straight up saying the new Chris isn't the same Chris we all loved in the 90s. Katt even tossed in that loaded reference to that island, hinting that Chris might not be as squeaky clean as he wants people to believe. That's a bold accusation, and it left fans buzzing with questions.
He was on this private plane, and you could tell that it was a private plane because they called it, was it Lolita Express?
Oh yeah, it was a private plane. Yes. Oh yes.
Wait a minute. You didn't never go to that island, did you?
No. I don't know where that thing at.
So how did Chris Tucker's name even get tied to Jeffrey E's scandal in the first place? It goes all the way back to the early 2000s, when Chris hopped on a so-called humanitarian trip to Africa aboard the infamous LTA Express. Yes, the same plane tied to all kinds of disturbing rumors. When Chris was recently asked about it, he brushed it off, saying he didn't really know who the plane's owner was or what kind of mess was attached to his name back then. But that excuse just made the whispers grow louder, and Katt clearly hasn't let it slide.
And I always knew God had his hands on my life, even though, and he showed me my purpose. My purpose, yeah, man, it just, God just, was opening doors, closing doors. But now as a man, my spirituality really helps me maneuver through life in a huge way, man. Think big decisions I have to make. Challenges go through. I have a foundation that I put it in God's hand. I don't try to do everything myself.
When the rumors came up that Chris Tucker might have actually flown to that island in the Caribbean, Chris shut it down fast, even laughed at the question. But that laugh rubbed people the wrong way. Why joke about something tied to such disgusting crimes? It made a lot of folks wonder if Chris was nervous or just trying to brush it off too quickly.
I admire the fact that you're living your life right and setting a good example. And you go to church a lot.
Oh man, every Sunday, every chance I get, man. You live in LA, I'm young, I'm black, I'm rich. I gotta have God on my side, man. The devil want me, man.
Yes, but you do, right? You go with your family. You have a church here that you go to?
Yeah, I go to church, man. You should come with me, man. You gotta come
You
with
don't
me.
want me to go to that.
Come on, George.
Man,
One Sunday, man. You
they
can
won't-
blend in. You look black already, man. Come on. I heard you was black.
According to Page 6, Chris's so-called humanitarian trip went down back in 2002. He and a group spent a week in South Africa, visiting AIDS project sites and smiling for the cameras. But here's where things get sketchy. One of the flight attendants, Shantae Davies, later appeared in a documentary and shared a chilling story about a disturbing incident that took place on that very plane. Years later, she even told The Sun about flying with Chris and the others on that trip. And the outlet released photos of Chris from those exact days. That made people question if the trip was really as innocent as it was painted to be. And just when people thought the story had died down, a photo resurfaced online showing Chris standing shoulder to shoulder with a man named Jojo Fia, Jeffrey's longtime housekeeper. That image blew up across social media, and fans couldn't ignore how close the connection seemed.
Perfect.
Now let's be clear. Chris Tucker has not been accused of any crimes here, but the fact that his name, his face, and his travels keep popping up in that circle is enough to leave people asking, how did so many A-list stars find themselves orbiting the same man while all those horrific crimes were happening behind the scenes? Are we really supposed to believe that none of those celebrities knew what was happening around them? Fans are split on this. Some argue Chris Tucker might have been too scared to speak up about what he saw on that trip, while others are way more suspicious. They're questioning whether Chris only witnessed something or if he might have been closer to the action than he's ever admitted. That's a heavy accusation, but the whispers keep getting louder. Here's where things take a wild turn. Chris has been leaning hard into his faith lately, constantly saying religion is the reason he pulled back from Hollywood. Ice Cube himself spilled that Chris walked away from a massive $10 to $12 million paycheck for next Friday just because he didn't want to curse or be seen smoking weed on camera. That's not just pocket change, that's life-changing money. And yet Chris said no, claiming it went against his beliefs. When a fan pressed Ice Cube on social media, asking if Chris quit the Friday franchise over money, Cube shut it down real quick, saying, "We were ready to pay Chris Tucker $10 to $12 million to do next Friday, but he turned us down for religious reasons. He didn't want to cuss or smoke weed on camera anymore." That kind of choice shocked people because it showed just how serious Chris was about his image and his new direction. But here's the catch. Critics are starting to wonder if this sudden devotion is the whole truth. Is Chris Tucker truly reborn and living by his faith? Or is he using religion as a shield, a convenient excuse to dodge deeper questions about why his name keeps circling back to all those shady figures? When Katt Williams said the Chris Tucker he knew from the original Friday wasn't the same Chris walking around today, it wasn't just casual shade. It sounded like he was hinting that this new religious Chris might actually be the same Chris tied to that infamous island. That was a heavy insinuation, and the fact that Chris hasn't clapped back or even addressed Katt's comments makes it all the more suspicious. He seems determined to stay far away from industry drama. But the real question is, why? Did Chris walk away from Hollywood because of a genuine spiritual rebirth? Or is this whole faith journey just the perfect cover to dodge accountability? Some fans think Chris simply saw too much behind closed doors and wanted no part of it. Maybe he wasn't involved in anything directly, but he might have witnessed things that could shake anybody. The secret parties, the blackmail games, the people moving in the shadows. If Chris really saw all of that, it would make sense for him to cut ties and disappear from the scene completely. One fan even defended him online, saying, "I believe Chris. He admitted he was on a flight. He thought it was for humanitarian work and then realized that dude was a PDF file. Nothing about his past says he's guilty." But another added something more chilling. Honestly, him knowing about the island would explain his absence from the silver screen. For years, people have claimed Chris Tucker was disgusted with Hollywood's darker side and decided to go quiet, just to stay alive. Some even compare it to how Topher Grace suddenly walked away from that 70s show after the Danny Masterson mess. The theory goes that Chris leaned so hard into religion because it was his only escape route, the only clean way to separate himself from that twisted industry darkness. But here's where it gets messy. Not everyone buys the innocent act. A growing number of fans believe Katt Williams wasn't just taking shots for fun. They think he was dropping clues that Chris Tucker might not have been just a bystander, but someone who rolled with the wrong crowd, got compromised, and now hides behind faith to avoid deeper questions. That's a whole different picture, and it's got people looking at Chris sideways. One user on X even posted a screenshot from the infamous Black Book, claiming it proves Katt was right, saying Chris not only flew on that plane, but also touched down on that island. And then things took an even wilder twist when another person pointed out that Katt once name-dropped Michael Jackson in the same breath. They wrote, "There had to be boys there too. I can't think of any other reason Michael Jackson would have shown up." And now all eyes are locked on Chris Tucker, which is wild considering how close he once was with Katt Williams. Even stranger, Chris's marriage ended out of nowhere. And ever since then, he hasn't been seen in any serious relationship with a woman. That has people whispering about what his real preferences might be, and whether there's more to his story than he's letting on. At this point, you've got two totally different ways to look at Chris. Either he witnessed something horrifying in Hollywood, maybe even during that so-called humanitarian trip, and chose to step back for his own safety, leaning on religion as his shield. Or he was complicit in the wrong circles and is now using that same religion as a convenient mask to keep questions at bay. But what do you think? Did Chris see something so dark it made him retreat from fame? Or is he still hiding the full truth about what went down on that trip? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one.